Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Kiki. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, a Life Unscripted. We're so grateful to have you out here. You and your co-author, Kaila Yu and Kiki Wong, you're the author of 30-Day Travel Challenge, How to Make Your Travel Dreams a Reality. I love that. Because as we spoke before the interview, how many people have said, oh, I wish I could travel. Oh, I can't do that. It'd be irresponsible. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Bullcrapper. In this time, especially in business, you can take your business on the road and actually have your business anywhere in the world, which is super awesome. Yeah. So
yes.
Share with the audience before we get started with your book, what brought you to the world of business and eventually writing a book?
So actually, Kaila and I, we were in a rock band together. So she was the singer and I was a guitar player. And we ended up traveling the world for about 7 years, playing in a rock band. You know, we've done all kinds of tours, from being in a van with only seven-seater van with 9 people, you know, stacked up on top of each other, to playing at the Hard Rock cafes in Macau and Malaysia. So we've had quite a diverse experience traveling. And once we started to realize, you know, we need to start making some money and stop being those broke musicians, we put the guitars down and we decided to endeavor into a blog because we just loved our travels. We wanted to share our experiences with everyone else. And eventually we realized, you know, we have this knowledge that we've kind of created from, you know, just the School of Hard Knocks, essentially, traveling in vans. So we're like, well, we'll just put together how we got through those, and we're able to actually travel with tourism boards and all kinds of things. So we put our knowledge together so anyone can travel, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you hear that, oh, no, it's not possible, I don't have the money, what do you find, what's the biggest misstep or not truth that people have about travel?
I think the biggest misstep is that people have limiting travel beliefs. And it's not just travel beliefs, it's a lot of limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. And it's a society we live in. It's a lot of competition. We're constantly pressured to be the best. Mm-hmm. And I think that sort of falls into all the things that we do, and especially things like leisure and travel and things that, you know, are fun. You know, we're kind of told, well, you're not really supposed to have fun. You're supposed to keep working really, really hard. And that's true in a sense too, but so we try to make excuses for ourselves as to why we can't travel. But ultimately, those are just excuses, and they're not real, and they're all, you know, within our heads. So that's one of the biggest things that we like to cover in our book, is to try to overcome those limiting travel beliefs and just live out your travel dreams. And they are very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, Kiki, because I found for myself, I love travel, but one of the things that was hard for me is I'm scared of flying. So it was 2006. I said, I'm going to kick the bucket this year. I'm going to take flying lessons so I can get over my fear of flying so that I could actually travel. And so I would travel every year, but be under the seat for, you know, how many hours I was in the plane. But after taking flying lessons and then meeting my wonderful husband, who happens to be a pilot, I've now flown so much. But it's funny that you mentioned it is an excuse, and you put out there, oh, it's not possible, da, da, da. Now that I met a wonderful husband that flies, we actually rent a plane. And we go places, and it's fun. We even get to go to business events and then write it off. So that's something else that as a business owner is great, is that if you learn to fly or you pay others to fly for you, you can write that off as a business expense. So yet another way to get out there and have fun and work at the same time. You can combine fun and work.
Exactly. I think that's incredible that you were able to actually first recognize that you had this pretty strong fear that was holding you back, and then ultimately jump at it like full force, and then eventually find even more greatness, like finding your husband. I mean, that's such a cool story. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, what prompted you and your friend Kaila to write your book? What was that? How did that come about?
Well, we were basically, you know, we always believe that sharing knowledge is the most important thing. And whether, you know, we want knowledge to be free and out in the world to see where it propagates, where it grows, and how it expands, because that's just the beauty of knowledge. So we decided to write a book and make it as affordable as possible to anybody. So basically, we just had all this information. We're like, well, people need to know. Because we were broke musicians, but we still were able to finagle our way into some incredible trips. So it's very, very possible. It's just a matter of taking the steps and getting your mindset right.
Yeah, you're so right, Kiki. There's a friend of mine that wanted to fly as well, and she didn't have a lot of money. She joined a flying group that every Saturday they like to fly places, and hey, the airplanes have space in them sometimes. So she actually became the accountant of the group. So she adds her value, and she gets to fly around the country. So you don't even need a pilot license to even make it happen. So there are so many different ways. But one thing I found for myself is from travel, it has expanded my mindset of how other people think, and how glorious it is that everyone's different perspective just adds to my life and makes my life that much richer. What have you found? And also, Kayla, and your travels have found that have been expanded your life and business and just as a person.
It's so true. I actually grew up in a relatively small town. It was about 12,000 people. So I would like to say that I had a very funneled perspective of how the world worked. And I moved out to Los Angeles just for college. I was on my way to become a doctor. I was following a very straight and narrow path. And then I met Kaila, who was like, hey, I have a band. Do you want to join it? And I was like, this is so radical and so off the beaten path. So we joined the band, traveled, and basically I discovered so much about the world that I would have never known if I hadn't taken a new perspective through traveling with a band. And I think that's so important because a lot of times, we get locked into a schedule. We have to do the 9 to 5. We're going to work, we come back, trying to make money, pay the bills, take care of kids, or whatever it is. And it becomes very, very, it becomes a reality. But the reality is that there is so much beyond just our own realities. And that's why travel is so important. And even if you're active in your own community, it's a very communal experience to make the world basically a smaller place by traveling and developing a community that's just outside your own. So it's really, really important. And I've definitely discovered so much more beyond just my small town of 12,000.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so cool about it is that when you go about and you connect with other people, you say, hey, we're not that different at the core of it. We all want the same things. We want to love, have a family, do well. But really at the core of it, we're all human, but we just express it differently. And what I find awesome, like I went to Spain for a month and people were like, oh, the kiss on both cheeks. And they're all so happy. They're very, very social. And coming from a German family, we don't hug. Oh, no, we didn't hug growing up. So at first I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? What is this kissing stuff you're all doing? But I came back home. I'm like, hey, people are like, whoa, what's that? But, it opened me up to being more affectionate and just, getting in touch with that part of myself.
Absolutely. I think that's one common thing when, maybe beginner travelers or people that are just getting exposed to the world, they sort of like want to implement their own perspectives and that they think that that's correct. But I think as you travel more, you realize that the world is so much bigger and there's so much more to learn about people and cultures that it makes you more objective. And that's, I think, my personal ultimate goal is to have total objectivity. That's just me. I don't know why. I'm like, maybe it's a scientist in me, but I really, really want to see the world as an observer and take in all the information and not see one thing as right or wrong or correct or better or anything like that. And I think travel definitely helps with that because it gives you a wider perspective of how cultures are.
Yeah. And one thing I found for me as a person is it helped me grow as a person, go deeper. And now I think through all of my travels and all the people I've met, it's made me more confident. Has that been your perspective?
Oh, definitely. Especially because one thing that we cover in our book is that you really have to get your mindset right. And especially for those people who haven't really traveled big travels outside of, their own city or even outside of the States, you really, really have to start building up your confidence to do things because it can be scary. I mean, it is very intimidating to go out, especially if you're solo traveling or if you're female, you're solo traveling. That's an extremely intimidating experience. But I think getting your mindset right and getting your confidence level like really, really centered and, practicing your positive affirmations and knowing that you can do it, then you're able to really build up your confidence and then go anywhere.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that because one thing I found through traveling throughout the world is that there's cultures, but like you said, it doesn't make it wrong. It's different way or different perspective of seeing the world. But what I found that, people have gotten mad at me being an American in their country is like, well, culturally we're disrespectful sometimes because we don't realize that we're stepping grounds or doing things in a way that isn't comfortable to them. So as the saying goes, when in Rome, do as Romans do. And so that's one thing I think I've picked up, that, to realize, okay, what are people doing? How do I fit in that I'm not going to be a local for sure. They're going to know I'm not, but that I fit in and I'm not disrespectful.
Right. Absolutely. And I think there's like cool ways to do that too. Like a lot of the times people will say, okay, well, we'll stay within our comfort zone. Let's go to like the Hilton, or let's go to, something that's familiar. But they're not fully able to grasp the experience that you get from different cultures. So a lot of the times we'll recommend doing like a homestay or something off the beaten path. If you're feeling a little adventurous, of course, that might be a little scary for first timers. But that way, if or Airbnbs are really great too, because a lot of the times the hosts are so helpful and they can teach you all types of little tricks and side roads and places to go. And you get such a breadth of knowledge from people that are local, and the experience is ever expanding. So definitely, if you're trying to get a little more, I would recommend doing something off the beaten path.
I love that. I did that once to my friend from Colorado. She'd lived in the mountains, hadn't really traveled abroad. I brought her somewhere and said, we're going to go to the poorest part of this town on purpose. Just because I wanted to give her a little culture shock, but also have her realize that, when you're in the pretty part, the hotel, it's like we're in America. We never left. I said, the poorer part doesn't equal the less better part. It's like there's still people. So we went there. It was loud. It was crazy. It was a market. And she was like, ah! But, once you get past the kind of culture shock, we're talking to people. We're having fun. We're having some coconuts, whatever. And, it's a good time. You just get past and I think that's just it, Kiki. When you get past your comfort zone, I think that's when you grow the most.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing how many times you feel like, okay, I don't want to do this today. Like whether it's a social event or something maybe even bigger. And then you go in and you're like, wait, how wasn't that bad at all? So a lot of the time, stepping out of your comfort zone, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to hurt. It's going to make you sweat. But as you ease into it, give it like 15 minutes, you're probably already going to be feeling a lot better. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found, I don't know about you, but I've tried at least to learn some of the lingo, at least food, because I love to eat. And when you learn some of the food, or you learn to say, how do I get here? Can you help me with this? People really appreciate that you tried to learn their culture or language and you're putting forth an effort. And that sometimes is all it takes. They'll start speaking to you in English. They'll be like, it's English. It's easier. Let's just speak English. But the fact that you took an effort to learn their culture or to learn their language really makes an impact that, you have respect for us.
Absolutely. I think that is such an important thing to do, especially if you're traveling to different countries, is learning just a couple of keywords, key phrases, and that can really, really open up a connection. And don't feel afraid if you're saying it wrong, or you have a little bit of a incorrect accent or anything. It's actually making an effort. It's sort of like bringing out a hand to shake with, So I think that is a huge benefit. And plus, sometimes, you never know, they might give you a discount.
And you'll learn something new, actually, and you can carry it with you for the rest of your life. Well, definitely. This is awesome. I don't want people to leave without finding out how they can get 30-day travel challenge. How can they do that?
So you can either search it on Amazon, or you can go to our website, which is www.30daytravel.com.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. And so everyone go out there and take that challenge wherever it is. Maybe it's just going to a couple states over to get a different perspective, because sometimes you don't even have to leave the country. There's different perspectives everywhere and different awesome people everywhere. So I just want to thank you, Kiki, for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Broadcasting.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, please share. To hear more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz tips, go to lifeunscriptedradio.com. To become a guest or participate in paid sponsorship, email us at Christina@lifeunscriptedradio.com.